Victories of the day. March 18th. Victories of the day, March 18th. 1. The first human spacewalk, March 18, 1965. Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov became the first human to leave a spacecraft and float freely in space, tethered only by a 5-meter umbilical cord during the Voskhod 2 mission. Until 1965, the vacuum of space was a theoretical barrier. Scientists weren't sure if a human could maintain consciousness, regulate body temperature, or even move effectively outside the pressurized cabin. Earlier extravehicular activity, EVA, designs failed because they didn't account for the ballooning effect of a pressurized suit in a vacuum. The Berkut spacesuit and an inflatable airlock, Volga, were used. The suit was specifically designed with a rigid helmet and a multi-layered insulation system to protect against extreme temperature swings. This mission was a real-world test of pressure differential physics. Leonov experienced a critical failure when his suit ballooned so much that he couldn't fit back into the airlock. He had to manually bleed off oxygen, lowering the internal pressure of his suit to shrink it enough to re-enter, a move that risked fatal bends, decompression sickness. Leonov's 12-minute walk proved that humans could work in open space. This paved the way for the Apollo moonwalks, the repair of the Hubble Space Telescope, and the assembly of the International Space Station, ISS. 2. The messenger orbit of Mercury, March 18, 2011. NASA's Messenger spacecraft successfully entered orbit around Mercury, becoming the first human-made object to orbit the innermost planet of our solar system. Mercury is notoriously difficult to orbit because it is so close to the Sun. A spacecraft must travel at incredible speeds and then brake against the Sun's massive gravitational pull. Previous missions, like Mariner 10, could only perform fast flybys, providing only a partial glimpse of the surface. The spacecraft featured a ceramic cloth sunshade to protect its instruments from 350 degrees Celsius heat, and a highly efficient propulsion system for the critical Mercury orbit insertion, MOI. The mission utilized orbital resonance and gravity assists. To slow down enough to be captured by Mercury's weak gravity without carrying tons of fuel, Messenger had to perform 6 planetary flybys, 1 of Earth, 2 of Venus, and 3 of Mercury, over 6 years to shed velocity. Messenger revealed that Mercury has water ice in permanently shadowed craters and a surprisingly large iron core. It completely rewrote the textbook on how rocky planets form in the furnace of a star. 3. The discovery of the Grand Canyon of Mars, March 18, 1972. Scientists analyzing data from Mariner 9, which had arrived months earlier but was obscured by a dust storm, finalized the first clear maps of Valles Marineris, a canyon system that dwarfs Earth's Grand Canyon. Before 1972, the canals of Mars were a popular myth. Astronomers using low-resolution telescopes misinterpreted dark lines as irrigation ditches built by a lost civilization. These failures were due to optical aliasing and the inability to see through the thick Martian atmosphere from Earth. Systems and devices used: the Vidicon camera on Mariner 9, which captured over 7,000 television images, and the Deep Space Network, DSN, which transmitted the data across 100 million miles. The mapping provided evidence for tectonic rifting on a global scale. Unlike the Grand Canyon, formed by water erosion, Valles Marineris was formed by the crust pulling apart as the nearby Tharsis volcanic region bulged upward. Valles Marineris remains the most significant geological feature on Mars. Understanding its formation helps planetary scientists determine the thermal history of Mars and where ancient groundwater might still be trapped. 4. The identification of the argon noble properties, March 18, 1895. Lord Rayleigh and William Ramsay published their definitive research on the newly discovered element argon, proving that it was chemically inert and belonged to a whole new column of the periodic table. For decades, chemists noticed a tiny discrepancy: nitrogen extracted from the air was slightly heavier than nitrogen made in a lab. Most dismissed this as an experimental error. They failed to realize that 1% of the air we breathe was actually a hidden, invisible gas that refused to react with anything. Spectrum analysis and gas density measurement were used. By passing an electric discharge through the gas, they observed unique spectral lines that didn't match any known element. This led to the discovery of the noble gases. It proved that there were closed shell atoms that were satisfied with their electron count and had zero chemical affinity. Argon is now essential in modern science. It is used to provide an inert atmosphere for welding, to preserve historical documents, like the U.S. Constitution, and in the blue lasers used for eye surgery. 5. The validation of the gas law constants, March 18, 1802. Joseph Louis Gay-Lussac published his findings on the thermal expansion of gases, establishing that all gases expand equally with an increase in temperature. Earlier scientists believed that different gases, like oxygen versus hydrogen, would expand at different rates. This led to inconsistent steam engine designs and unreliable weather balloons. They were looking at the identity of the gas rather than the mechanics of the molecules. High-precision mercury thermometers and glass bulbs of known volume were used for the experiments. The Gay-Lussac's law established the relationship between pressure and temperature. More importantly, it provided the experimental basis for the concept of absolute zero, the theoretical point where gas volume would reach zero. This law is the foundation of thermodynamics. It explains why your car tires lose pressure in the winter and is the fundamental math used to design every jet engine and refrigerator in use today. 6. Scientist of the Day, Alexei Leonov, 1934–2019. Leonov was not only a skilled cosmonaut but also a professional artist. He took colored pencils into space to sketch the first ever views of the orbital sunrise, merging scientific observation with human expression. During the March 18 mission, Leonov faced 3 near-fatal failures. His suit ballooned, he had to enter the airlock head first, getting stuck, and the capsule landed in a frozen forest full of wolves. Leonov later commanded the Soviet half of the Apollo-Soyuz test project, the first joint US-Soviet mission. He turned the technology used for the space race into a tool for international peace. Every time an astronaut steps out of the ISS today, they are using techniques and safety protocols that began with Leonov's terrifying and triumphant 12 minutes in the void. Victories of the Day. March 18.